So good to see you, lads. How are you? How's life?
Right? Hey, we're in New York.
Are you in New York? Man, you're back at work for real, for real. I'm trying to think, the last time we spoke like this, you were coming to the end of a cycle. I think you were about to do some shows in Australia, or you were a real triumphant sort of end to a run. And I know that there's been other bits and bobs you've been doing and you've been moving around, but you weren't really in album mode, and it feels like you're really in album mode. And so how does it feel to kind of be back with this album coming out October 11th? It feel good?
Feel great. We were just looking, like the pre-order for the record just went live, and it's such a funny place to be after spending a year and a half working on this big body of work. It's like 15 tracks, and then just seeing it like live, like is crazy. So cool, like the artwork, everything.
You never get accustomed to that feeling, especially when you put so much love and effort into it. It sounds like this was a fun one though, that you did this kind of in different parts of the world, beautiful idyllic spots, and you really kind of leaned into the opportunity of letting the environment play a little bit of a role, right? Because, you know, you can't go out and record in Austin and LA, Ibiza, do some stuff in Miami, wherever, without kind of absorbing the energy of that. So good to see you spending some money, boys. Good to see you spending some money.
Thank you. For the label set.
So, when did this all start? How did this sort of, and hopefully we'll talk in more detail, but I'd love to sort of just get an idea about how this project sort of began, and the idea of like, hey, we don't have to be stuck in one place. We can keep it moving again.
Yeah. So I think that it was sort of out of circumstance that we had some time to, I guess, decide where we wanted to live. And Tyrone wanted to head down to Encinitas, close to San Diego. And me and James decided that we'd change things up too and go to Miami. And so that also meant that we would create our own studios in those spaces and do some back and forth. But the real magic started to happen once we were doing these little 2-week stints in those places that you were just talking about, in Austin, LA, and Ibiza. And I guess we really made the most of those 2-week stints. We were in a really good creative flow. We were reconnecting, and particularly reconnecting in the studio more than ever. I think just making a minute count, getting a lot of work done, and less distractions, and it was all music time.
You know, when you go out on the road and you start playing your music that you've made lovingly and sharing it with people in front of increasingly large crowds, and you're getting the joy of that experience, and then you call time on that, does some of that energy carry over into the next project, or is it important that you kind of you sort of start from fresh and you don't have any expectations of what you've achieved before creeping into that? You know, even just the thought of how this will play in front of 30,000 people because you've done that now.
I think that definitely plays in our minds a little bit. We're very good at putting ourselves in other people's shoes when we're making the music, but at the same time, we're also very good at entering a little bubble, and because it's just the three of us, we can create a little ecosystem where we're just having so much fun, and the studio spaces that we're setting up are like playgrounds with our favorite synths, and all of us are just rotating, trying different things, trying ideas. And I would say on this record, it's been really fun and liberating. We've been pushing the boundaries of what the expressions of our music looks like, trying different tempos, trying different sort of beat expressions, things that are beatless. And so I feel like this album that we've created is way more dynamic, and it reflects that we were more liberated, more fun in the studio, and it was just us referencing music that we loved and bringing that to the table, trying different things were evolving. And so it was very liberating and fun for us.
Perfect band to do that too, because I feel like you've been dancing in these playgrounds for a while, dancing in these spaces for a while now. Like, it's hard for me to categorize what it is that you do. I said that at the top of the show. I'm like, I don't really consider you to be a dance act. I feel like you have as much in common with ambient and with soundscape music to me as you do with tempo and dynamic rhythm. And, so the whole thing sort of, to me, it's an emotional experience more than it is a genre-fied experience. So how do you know when the emotion is right? I mean, you can get the tempo, you can get the synths moving. How do you know when it's like, okay, it's moving us? Because I know you wouldn't put it out unless it's moving you.
For sure. That's very true. I think we've gotten better as time's gone by. Like the more time we've spent in the studio, we're quicker at catching whether we're connecting with it or not. So we'll start ideas and we'll run down the rabbit hole of that idea for however long it is. And as soon as someone cottons on, should we move on to another idea? Let's do it. Yeah. Or we'll continue fleshing it out. And that is very much based on whether we feel something, and I think the magic, especially on this record, more so than the others, like a lot of the ideas that we found in those initial moments, we would flesh out and basically complete the song, like get a rough sketch of pretty much, 90% of the words, the lyrics, the production, and it'd be done and fleshed out. And there's a magic in that when you can, finish a song in a small moment in time
And it's just that expression, and you just honing in on that feeling, whatever that is.
It's interesting because the first time I heard Break My Love, and it's got this thing which is just like, to me, repetition is such an important part of a dance floor experience. You know, getting the right loop like that, it's not maddening. It's not a drill in my brain. I could listen to just that for like 5 minutes, right? If you get the right tone and the right EQ. And then it's just like, let's build around that. And I'm like, please don't let that go. And you don't. You keep that going through the entire song. And so obviously you felt the same way, right? This kind of repetitive thing with the stuttering effect has such a powerful sort of emotional resonance. Did you build the song around that to some degree, or did that come later?
Yeah, so the song sort of started with, we were in one of those 2-week like sessions, and when you go to bed, when you that creative flow that we're in the studio, it sort of doesn't stop when you go to bed. And so one of the nights I woke up and I mumbled this melody that I had in a dream into my voice recorder, voice memo. Came into the studio the next day, played some simple chords on the piano and started singing it to the boys to sort of get that idea out of my head. And then from there, we quickly like translated that into we recorded it. And then James started with basically with this springboard that John brought in was really intriguing. It was the chords and the vocal melody that became like the breakdown vocal melody and the pre-choruses. And I got really inspired straight away with like, you know, what if we brought in, there was a beat me and John had worked on that was a slower tempo, it was more lurching. And then, I got really excited with building out something that was more sort of like tripped out, lurching, psychedelic. And basically then Tyrone was riffing on some vocal melodies, some other hooks. And I just took one of Tyrone's vocal melodies and just started looping and chopping it. And I had that really weird, like psychedelic stutter. And it felt like that, you know, bled into the rest of the track, having that 16th lurch and falling over itself a bit.
Yeah, it is. It's tripping. It's trippy, and it's tripping itself up in a really cool way. It's like when you dance to it, it's like it's got a dynamic energy to it, but it feels way slower than you think it actually is. Do you know what I mean? It plays tricks on you.
Messes with your mind a bit. I think another cool element with the track was this, you know, there's a bit of a weird funk to it, and that was because Tyrone brought this guitar kind of riff. You know.
Yeah. I think with the initial vocal melody, when we walked into the room and John was like playing the chords and the breakdown vocal, I liked the way it was syncopated. It sounded a bit funky to me. I'm like, oh, this feels fresh for us. Like we should lean into this. And so like the verse, the rhythms of the verse vocal and the chorus, I just really wanted it to be this little funky thing, and the guitar. And yeah, I don't know. I like that it's us stepping into our version of
funk.
Funk.
Yeah, it's a funk. Yeah, no, there definitely
funk.
is. It's RÜFÜS DU Funk. The album is called Inhale, Exhale. It's coming out October 11th. Time is a funny thing. You don't really realize it's going fast until you realize that life's been lived in between projects. It feels like yesterday that I spoke to you on the last album. I'm glad you're back with a new one. Really don't take it for granted. Love the fact you're back. The song is brilliant. RÜFÜS DU SOL are back with the cover of New Music Daily called Break My Love. Boys, it's great to see you. Enjoy the last remaining days of whatever freedom you have before you're back out there bringing the joy to us. And we'll catch up with them when the time is right. Have a good one. Take care, boys.
Hey, somebody.